Okay, good morning, everyone. It's good to see everyone. I didn't know what to expect after last week's message, and then saying that we're going to continue talking about generosity. So I don't know. Sometimes it can just like give people another reason to just, okay, I'll just stay home. But thank you for coming. It's good, really good to see everyone. I know a lot of people are sick, so just kind of turn around. If you don't see somebody, just kind of take a note or take a mental note, and then just call, text people, ask how they're doing. Pray for them if they're sick and need prayers. I know, like I said, a lot of people have been sick, and it's kind of takes a long time this time around. So just let's pray for each other. If you're new here, I want to welcome you. We're happy and glad that you're here. We're excited that you took this time to be with us. So we would love for you to come back, and hopefully we can build relationships, get to know each other, and become a family. So today we are going to be, the first passage we're going to go to is in Luke chapter 10. So if you want to open it up, that would be great. And like I said, we're continuing the series called Generous, or Be Generous, that we started last week. So we're going to continue talking about that. The question that I wanted to kind of start with today is this. My question for you. Is it hard for you to stay focused, not to get distracted? Is it hard for you to stay focused on things and not get distracted? And I'm not asking about the church or listening to a sermon. I'm talking about life in general. Maybe it's about staying focused when you do work. Maybe it's staying focused when you have something in mind and then you just wanted to do it, but then kind of things get in the way and you may get distracted. How hard is it for you to stay focused? Or do you tend to get distracted a lot? I know it can be a challenge with so many things going on in our lives, being part of our daily schedules. Sometimes it can be a big challenge because there's, no matter how hard we try, that to-do list kind of keeps growing at a faster pace than we're able to kind of check those things off. And so you start, like I said, sometimes you just start doing something and then you see something else that needs to be done, and so you kind of switch and you move on and you move on, and at the end of the day, none of those things may be finished or done. And being distracted, in general, is not viewed or perceived by people as a virtue. It's not valued, it's not praised, it's not encouraged, it's not complimented. Being distracted is definitely not, is not perceived by people as something very, very good. Being focused usually is. And if we look at the culture and the workplace, then that's, especially in those places, being focused is really, really valued. People who can be focused or stay focused or keep their focus on their tasks, they are valued. Because they are the people that are most effective. They're the people who tend to achieve more. They are the people who bring the company or an organization more profit. If they stay focused on the goals and the tasks, kind of like what Ross was talking about, it's just so easy to lose focus and get off your resolution or your goal. And if you can, then the company is going to value you because you're going to benefit the company. You will be able to get more things done. And so just let's be realistic. chances of you getting a bonus for being the most distracted employee of the company or the month are not very high. You're probably not, if you had any hopes of getting an award like that or a bonus like that, then probably just kind of bury that. It's not gonna happen. And so, while it is hard to get anything done if you keep getting distracted, sometimes there are some interruptions and distractions that I think we need to welcome and embrace in our lives. And I believe some of those distractions and interruptions are from God. They're kind of divine interruptions, if you will. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. We're going to look at the same passage that we looked at last week. Some of you were not here last week, and so we're just going to read it, okay? If you read it last week, you'll be refreshed. It'll be repeated, but if you haven't, then we were in Luke chapter 10 and verses 30 through 37. And again, the story that Jesus is telling here is like a response to a question that the teacher of the law, an expert in the law of Moses, asked him. Well, who's my neighbor? So when Jesus was asked about the most important commandments and how to get it, inherit eternal life, and then the person answered the question, and then he's like, well, who's my neighbor? And in reply, Jesus said, he's telling this story. In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed on by the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, he took out 2 denarii and gave him to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. And I'll just, like I said, it's a familiar story. You've heard it 1,000 times. We read it twice in the last 2 weeks. So I'll just go ahead and tell you the kind of the main thought, the main idea that I would like for us to kind of focus and think about and see how we can apply that. And this is what it is that generosity is always practical. Generosity, since we're talking about generosity, last week we were talking about the generosity was more about the heart than the money. This week, the big thought is that generosity is always practical. And why am I mean, kind of like it's common sense, why am I bringing this up? Because I think that sometimes when we think about generosity, sometimes what happens is this. We see a need, we see an opportunity, we see a person who needs help, we see a situation where we can be generous, and we think, I need to be generous, I need to do this. And somehow in our mind, we may end up thinking that the realization that I need to be generous is what it counts. It's my desire to be generous. I don't necessarily need to be because I can always find excuses. There are always reasons, and a lot of times there are good reasons not to do anything, but somehow we think this is the virtue, this is the good thing, this is something that God commends us for. That I see the need and I understand that I need to be there. I'm just not there yet. I will get there, God, someday. I will get there. So please count that as a good thing for me. So this is why I think we need to understand and realize and remember and be reminded of the fact that generosity is always practical. Generosity does not exist in abstract realm. It does not exist at all. I mean, you can't say that somebody is generous if there's no evidence of somebody being generous. Wishing or dreaming about being generous does not count. It's like if you need somebody's help and they just wish that you get that help, it doesn't do much to you, does it? It doesn't help you at all. So just wishing or dreaming or wanting to be generous does not make me generous. Generosity is always practical. Generosity can only exist in practical application. In other words, generous heart will always express itself or reveal itself. It will not hide. The generous heart will always take steps, take action, and express and reveal itself. And generosity always serves one way or another. And we're not talking about only financial, being generous in regards to our money. We talked last time that generosity, the generous heart, expresses itself in different ways. And so, a Samaritan in this story, how did his generous heart express itself? He was generous with his time. He was generous with his time. Remember we talked about last week? 3 men. 3 men saw the victim. Only one was willing to change his plans and schedule in order to help. Because the first 2, the priest and the Levite, when they saw the man in trouble, in a very bad shape, desperately needing help, half dead, they just got on the other side. They were like, I have plans, man. I'm sorry. I got to go. I mean, there are people waiting on me. People are counting on me. I got to get things done. I can't stop and just spend all this time helping you. Only 1 out of 3 was willing to change his schedule. He was willing to be flexible enough to rearrange his priorities at this time. Did it slow him down? Oh yeah. Did it mess up his own plans? Definitely. Did it require him to be flexible? For sure. Do you think he had excuses to not get involved? 100%. 100%. Because if we try, we can always find an excuse not to get involved, not to be generous, not to change our plans, not to offer help, and not to be generous. It slowed him down quite a bit. He gets to the person, he gets to the victim, he helps him, he takes him to the inn, to the hotel. He cared for him until next day. So it wasn't just like he delivered him, dropped him off. It's like, adios, I got to go. Bye. Here's the guy. I did something. No, he stayed there. And the text, if you look at the text, it says he cared for him. Whatever, taking care of the person in a really bad shape, beat up, unconscious, whatever it takes, caring for his wounds and stuff, giving him water and other things. He did all that until next day. He was generous with his time. He was also generous with his comfort. It says in verse 34, it says he put him on his donkey. What does that mean for him? He had to walk. I don't know how far, but he had to walk. So he gives up his comfort to be generous. He's generous with his comfort. He gives up something that's comfortable for him to make life a little bit or more comfortable for somebody else. This is what the generous heart does. He gave up his comfort. And, he gave up his comfort even though he worked for it. He didn't steal it. He worked for it. He earned it. But it was okay. It was worth it to be generous and help somebody else. And he was generous with his money, with his finances. The text says, if you look at it, it says that he put oil and wine, he treated the wounds of the person. So he spent his own resources, something that he could have used for himself. He used that to help somebody in need. Then they get to the hotel. He pays for the room. He pays for any other expenses that he needed to take care of the person in need who suffered an attack. And then, next day, when he has to leave, he basically is writing a blank check to the innkeeper, to the hotel owner, to the manager of the hotel. And he says, here's some money, and when I come back, I will pay any other expenses that you have. Take care of him. Whoa. I will pay any extra expenses when I come back. Something you never hear from the health insurance company, right? You don't ever say, hey, you can go and get any treatment that you want or need. From what I hear, you just have to negotiate and negotiate and negotiate and have to convince them to cover and get them to pay after you've paying them all this time. They don't ever tell you any expenses that you have. We will cover it and even give you some more. No. But he did. It's like, what kind of heart does that? A generous heart does that. Because you never know. I mean, he could have come back, I don't know, several days later, a week later, and then you just they give you a bill, and it's a bill this big, and you're like, what did you do? Why is the bill so high? And they say, well, we had to do the CAT scan and the MRI and the blood work, and we did the surgery, and then we did the speech therapy, and they did physical therapy, and then we did a massage and spa therapy, and then we put them on a lobster and black caviar, a therapeutical diet, that kind of thing. This is why it's so high. We just took liberty to do that since, you said that you'd pay for it. He does that. He's writing a blank check, basically, to the guy. Well, this is what we think sometimes when we hear this. We think, the first thing we probably think, well, he was probably wealthy. He was probably rich, and he could probably afford it. What if I can't afford doing this myself? What if I need this money for myself or my family or somebody, some emergency that comes up? And first of all, everybody is the same in this situations like this. We never know. We can never be at a place where we can say with 100% confidence that nothing's ever going to happen. I can afford spending this money, give it to somebody in need, and I know for sure that I will not need it for the next couple of years. There's always something that can come up. Things do happen. Things do come up. It's not a matter of if I can afford it. And I don't think he was super rich either. Why? This is just my assumptions. This is just what I can get from the text. What did he travel on? A donkey. I mean, if you're talking about a super rich person, you probably would read about the servants. You probably would read about a chariot. You probably would read about a horse. No, a donkey. It's like your middle middle class person. It's like a used Camry, like a 10-year-old Camry kind of thing. I don't think he was rich. I don't think he was rich, but he did have something. He did have a reputation. I don't know if you ever thought about this, but put yourself in the keeper's shoes. The guy brings in the person that's really unconscious. It's like he needs help. And so next day, he gives you some money, and he says, do anything you need to do to help him, and I'll come back and pay you. What do you need if this is a stranger? Are you going to do it? Are you going to say, oh, sure, yeah, I'm going to spend $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on this guy. I'll just take you at your word. I'll just take your word that you will come back and reimburse me for any expenses, right? This is what we do in everyday life. No. We need some guarantees. The person, the Samaritan, he had a reputation. He was most likely, he was not a stranger to the innkeeper. For him to say that, and for the innkeeper to say, sure, no problem, I will do that. There has to be a relationship. There has to be a history. There has to be a reputation. It's like, oh, this guy is coming and bringing another person he is helping. Most likely, they knew each other really well. Most likely, he had the reputation of somebody trustworthy, somebody who keeps his word, somebody who is always willing to help people. Generosity is always practical. So how can I grow in this area? How can I become more generous? And I think we just need to keep that in mind. Have that heart, have that desire, ask God and work on that. It's not that, if I'm here and I'm really struggling with this area, because we're all in different kind of parts of this journey. We don't need to compare ourselves to anybody else. I am where I am. But I don't need to look at where, like the max expression, like the version of the Samaritan generosity, and say, hey, this is unachievable. I can't do it. No, it's just a step-by-step thing. So we can be generous with our time. We can be generous with our comfort. We can be generous with our finances and money. We can be generous with our gifts. We can be generous with encouragement that we offer to people. Seeing all those things that we have as tools, as resources given to me for a specific purpose. Let's look at another passage. It's in 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 10 and 11. This is what Peter says. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do it so as one who speaks with the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. Peter starts with each of you. We were just ready to get out the door. We were just like, oh, it doesn't apply to me. I mean, it's for generous people. I'm out of here. No, Peter goes, wait. Everybody back. Listen, eyes on me, each of you. He's saying it applies to 100 people. Each of you. If you're a follower of Jesus, he's saying each of you should use whatever gift you have received. We say, but I don't have any gifts. I'm not as gifted as this person. I'm not as gifted as that person. Read the first word, what he says, each of you. Each of you. God is not lying. He gave everybody some gifts, at least one for sure. And he's saying, you have received a gift, so each of you should use it. And if you want to argue about this, you can argue with Peter. Don't argue with me. He says, each of you, and then he says, use. Use whatever gift you have received. Use. He's talking about the practical application. You have received a gift to use it. God gave you the gift, and he wants you to use it. It was given with a practical purpose, with a specific person. It's not a collection. You know, sometimes we get carried away with things we like, and you end up with a collection of things, and you may have them on the shelter or maybe in a closet somewhere, and we have collection of things. Those gifts are not given for us as a collection set. They're given for us to be used for practical purposes. And then he says, whatever gift that you have received, so whatever gift that I have, whatever I have, serve God, serve people with what I have. Don't let it stop you because you don't have a gift like this person or that person. Sometimes we think, well, if I was, the good at this, then I would do different things, a lot of things. But since I don't have that, then I can't really do much. Peter says, whatever you have, use that. Each of you, whatever you have received, use what you have. And then he says, whatever gift that you have received to serve others. Received to serve. This is why God gave it. God gave us the gift so that we can serve other people. And serve it and use the gift as faithful stewards. Faithful to who? Faithful to God. God gave it to me. I need to be a steward, a faithful steward. God needs to look at me and say, he faithfully manages the gifts that I gave him or her. Use it in a way so that God, when he looks at me, he would say, he's a faithful steward. He's a faithful manager of what I have entrusted him with. And then he talks about in various forms. And he's like, you guys be creative. You just get your generous heart and let it express itself. Think of different ways that your generosity can pour out and bless other people. And then the end goal, Peter says, so that God would be praised. We have to keep that in mind as well. It's not for us to be praised, even though it feels good, but it's the gifts have been given to us. They're expected to be used so that God would be glorified and praised. We're just a tool. We're just faithful stewards of what God entrusted us with. Give God the glory. Serve and be generous in such a way that God is glorified. Not us, but God. And, it brings joy to my heart to see so many of you involved in different ways, serving in different ways, using the gift really to glorify God. There are so many ways that people are already involved in serving and using the gifts that they have received. And if you would like to do that, I can tell you, just list a few things that the ways you can serve. Sometimes we say, I would love to serve, I would love to be generous, I would love to help people, I would love to be involved, but I just don't know how or where. Well, one of the things Ross mentioned, one of the things that you can do is just come on Tuesdays and be a part of that prayer group. You're going to be generous with your time. You're going to be using that gift of prayer to glorify God and pray for the church, pray for the people. Another ministry that we have is the children's ministry, our Kingdom Kids. That ministry, I can tell you, it always needs people. And sometimes we'll look at it, and maybe if Erica approached you and you were like, whoa, no, 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 just don't get scared. There are different ways that you can help. You don't have to teach. You can just come and help with the kids. Or, you can come and watch. Give it a try. Say, okay, I'm not committing forever. I'm not signing a contract for my life. I'll just give it a try and see if that's something that you see yourself doing. But just keep in mind that the influence, the consequences of that is the impact is just generational. But okay, so worship. If you're musically gifted, so see Erica. If the children's ministry is potentially one of the areas that you can see yourself being involved in, see Erica. If you're musically gifted, vocally, musically, technically, running sound, lights, computers, see Austin. If you can serve that way. Finances, giving part of what God blessed us with. The church does not, cannot exist without money. It's something that it's a privilege for us to do. God blesses us; He's faithful, and so it's an honor to participate with Him in His eternal plan of preaching the word and spreading the word and sharing good news. We have a team that prepares meals for people that need help, that people who have different events like funerals, or if somebody is sick and I can tell you, recently this team has been working overtime. Maybe you're not a Bible teacher, maybe you're not an evangelist, but this is another way that you can serve, is just by helping, just joining that team. If you want to do that, then you can contact Christy or Nicole. Nicole's not here today, but you can contact one of them. They definitely need help. They've been, like I said, they've been working overtime this last few weeks. Maybe you're good with just fixing something, working, repairing. I know Bud does a lot of that. I know Dave does a lot of that. I know other guys, help around the facilities and stuff. But I can tell you, there can never be too many people for that. It's a big facility. It needs a lot of work. So if you can help in that area, see Bud. Come up to Dave. Hey, what can I do? How can I help? I can't do much, but I can definitely fix stuff or build stuff. And so that's another way. I want to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to everybody, all of you. I know the Kingdom, the children's ministry people are not here to hear this, but you can, if you're a parent, you can thank them on my behalf, on your behalf. But I want to thank you guys. This whole thing would not exist without people just being generous with their gifts, with their time. So I really appreciate it, because generosity is always practical. And I realize that all of our schedules are full. All those church things, ministries, they sometimes they seem like interruptions and disruptions to our everyday life. And there's always more money to be made. There's always more comfort to bring into your life, and money to spend on yourself. But I just wanted to read you a story. A young and very successful executive named Josh was traveling down a Chicago neighborhood street. He was going a bit too fast in his sleek, black, 12-cylinder Jaguar XKE. I don't know. It must be a fancy car. Marco is not here today to tell us, but it's got to be it's like black 12-cylinder Jaguar, okay, which was only 2 months old. He was watching for kids darting out from between parked cars and slowed down when he thought he saw something. As his car passed, no child darted out, but a brick sailed out and boom! It smashed into the car's shiny black side door. Screech! Brakes slammed, gears ground into reverse, and tires madly spun the Jaguar back to the spot from where the brick had been thrown. Josh jumped out of the car, grabbed the kid, and pushed him up against the parked car. He shouted at the kid, "What was that all about? And who are you? Just what the heck are you doing?" Building up a head of steam, he went on, "This is my new car. That brick you threw is going to cost you a lot of money. Why did you throw it?" "Please, mister, please, I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do," pleaded the youngster. "I threw the brick because no one else would stop." Tears were dripping down the boy's chin as he pointed around the parked car. "It's my brother, mister," he said. He rolled off the curb and fell out of his wheelchair, and I can't lift him up." Sobbing, the boy asked the executive, "Would you please help me get him back into his wheelchair? He's hurt, and he's too heavy for me." Moved beyond words, the young executive tried desperately to swallow the rapidly swelling lump in his throat. Straining, he lifted the young man back into the wheelchair and took out his handkerchief and wiped the scrapes and cuts, checking to see that everything was going to be okay. He then watched the younger brother push him down the sidewalk towards their home. It was a long walk back to the sleek, black, shining, 12-cylinder Jaguar XKE. A long and slow walk. Josh never did fix the side door of his Jaguar. He kept a dent to remind him not to go through life so fast that someone has to stop him with a brick. You know, there are some disruptions, some distractions, and interruptions that are worth our time, comfort, and money. And I know that all of us are dealing with the temptation to ignore this, but becoming more like Jesus always comes with being selfless. And that means that we get less time for ourselves, less comfort for ourselves, less money to spend on ourselves. And I know it sounds like a poor advertisement to you. Like, why would I want to do that? But the thing is, when there's less of me in me, there's more of God in me. When there's less of me in me, then that means that there's more of God in me. And so, generosity does not benefit other people only. I also get to benefit as well. And you know what the alternative to selfless is? Is being full of myself. And that's not a nice thing. That's not a compliment. That's not the goal. I strive, my New Year resolution is to be full of myself. No. Being more selfless and having more Jesus is the way to make Jesus more famous in Odessa, in this country, and all over the world. Because generosity is always practical, always.